Your team is significantly more talented than that UConn team, but Danny is so good at getting the most out of his players that did you feel like that test was something, despite the fact you guys had a great season, but was something that definitely benefited you as the tournament went on?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought we played our best basketball of the year in the SEC tournament. We rolled through the SEC tournament, and it was the best league in America, best league in across college basketball for a while. Danny obviously had won back-to-backs, but their players like Alex Caravan, Hassan Diarra, they had guys on their roster that had been used to winning in those moments, and we didn't. And so that was a big step for us. I felt like that got a little bit of the monkey off our back, winning that game, getting to the Sweet 16. We could play a little more free down the stretch.
You were telling us that you're a legit Cubs fan, even though you didn't grow up here. So explain this to us. How did you become a big Cubs fan?
Yeah, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and to real baseball heads, they realized the Diamondbacks didn't come into existence until the mid-'90s. I was born in 1985. My dad was a big basketball guy, but also loved baseball, and I was around the game a lot growing up. Obviously, Phoenix, very warm weather, a lot of baseball played out there. And, it really started with spring training, going to Ho-Ho-Calm Park out there and getting to see the Cubs. And then the other element, like we discussed, was WGN. You know, back growing up, you had WGN, you had TBS, so you could watch the Cubs, you could watch the Braves. I wasn't a bandwagoner. I hated when Maddox left us to go play for the Braves, so I stayed true to the Cubs on WGN. And as you guys know, it's been an up and down ride along the way. But yeah, it's I would say the Cubs are the team I'm most passionate about across any professional sports league in America.
That's amazing. So who were your favorite players throughout your Cub fan life?
I mean, Sammy Sosa was obviously a big part of my childhood. You know, him and McGuire going back and forth in the home run days. The 2016 year was really remarkable for me. My son was born in 2016, so we call him the World Series baby, and just loved growing up. You know, or I shouldn't say growing up, but kind of in those years when Baez was young, and Rizzo, Chris Bryant, all those guys. Obviously, Arrieta, what he did for that team that year, but that was a super special team. Obviously, winning the World Series as Jake was, I think 3 months old at the time. But those two time periods, I would say, were obviously the most special.
We've talked a lot about, odd things like rigging the NBA draft lottery. What'd you make of the 17-minute rain delay in Game 7 of the Cubs and Indians World Series?
It was interesting timing, to say the least, right?
Pretty interesting.
But, it sounds like, or at least the story is that, Jason Hayward took advantage of that time to rally the troops and get everybody back on the same page and find a way to win that game. So I'll at this point, because we know the result, I'll take it.
You're going to throw out the first pitch. Have you been practicing for that?
Yeah, my son's a big baseball guy, so we're out of the diamond a couple nights a week and are throwing in the backyard. So I feel like I'll try to get loosened up a little bit on the side there, but I'm not too concerned about it. My rule on first pitches is you just can't bounce it. Just don't bounce it. Make sure you get it to the plate.
Ben Johnson, the new Bears coach, just threw out the first pitch. He told us he's going to throw the piss out of it.
Yeah.
And then he threw almost a strike. It was
had movement.
Yeah, and it had movement. Yeah. So if he said, I'm going to throw the piss out of it, what would you give us the scouting report on how you will probably end up throwing it?
Mine will be more, I would say more like a pitch out. Than a strike. I just want to make sure I don't bounce it and embarrass myself that way, but I'll try to put some pace on it too.
Have you met any Cubs of the 2016?
No.
You've never met one?
No, I haven't.
That's so. And what will this be like for you? Like, obviously, it's anything you do in your field is a number one. But as far as like cool things to do, you're going to the White House, like you just said. Where is throwing out the first pitch at Wrigley Field?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the top. It's not close. It's something that you don't really envision ever being able to do growing up, and obviously a situation we're excited to take advantage of. We're going to go watch BP for a little bit and go walk around, and this will be my son's first time at the ballpark. My dad actually flew in from Phoenix, so he's going to enjoy it with us. It'll be a great day. My son is begging me to see if we can meet, Pete Crow Armstrong. I'm like, dude, I'll see. We'll see if we get there early enough. But yeah, we're excited for it.
PCA. Everyone loves PCA, don't they?
How can you not?
Yeah.
LA kid, West Coast kid coming out to Chicago, taking care of business.
Yeah. And where were you when the Cubs won the World Series? Who were you watching it with, and what was your mood like as that game? Because Waddle and I were together, and he'll tell you, I'm the diehard Cubs fan. that I
You didn't
did not
enjoy it.
And
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it. I was stressed, and I didn't comport myself well either.
Right.
Because I thought it was going to be another Cub moment.
Not a shock to the guys that actually do know you, in fact.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just was sitting in our townhouse in San Francisco. That was 16, so I'd just gotten the job as an assistant coach. Is that right? Yeah, assistant coach in San Francisco, moving back from Alabama. We had just had our son, and so I think my wife was probably sleeping watching the game, but I was watching with the lights off dim and really praying for a little bit of a comeback after. It was Rajay Davis, right? That's who hit the home run.
Yeah.
That's
See?
not
You know your
enjoyable.
stuff.
I thought the stadium was truly. I'm a Reds fan. I grew up in Cincinnati, so like I'm not cheering for Cleveland at that point. I'm cheering for the Cubs. I've never been in a stadium that was that electric and was like the
Shaking.
place was shaking when he hit that. I think LeBron was
He had
shirtless
just got
up
there.
in the
yeah,
stands.
Yeah, they were showing him on TV. I remember.
It was one of. It is truly like I can't think of another event I've been at, in person that had more drama and more whatever attached to it. It was unbelievable.
I've been at one sporting event that I would put on that same pedestal, and you guys will appreciate this. I was actually at Game 6, Phoenix Suns, Chicago Bulls in Phoenix when Paxson hit the 3
Oh,
to ice the
wow.
series. That was devastating. On the wrong side of that one also.
Right.
But growing up in Phoenix, my dad had season tickets, so we would go, and so that was another great game. But I was on the wrong side of that one.
How old were you then?
I was 6 or 7.
Yeah. Do you remember that
I
series?
definitely remember.
You do.
I mean,
yeah.
I remember that game and that moment, and I remember walking to the car after, not very happy afterwards.
Maybe you'll see Pax at the Combine.
yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, Todd Golden joining us in studio, the national champion from Florida. So as we talk then about you, and like, it's one thing to watch these games as a sports fan. How are you as far as these games go to the Final Four in that national championship game where you guys did what you did? What's going through your mind as that game's coming down the stretch?
Just kind of backing up through the whole tournament. We had a great team this year. So we got the 1 seed in the West region, and we felt like we could, make some noise. But we ran into a great UConn team in the second round. We were down 5-6 the majority of the second half, and there were times in that game where you're sitting there, just hoping that this isn't where it ends, right? When you're a 1 seed, we found a way to get through that game. Made it to the Sweet 16, played a great game against Maryland. That was never very tight. But then we go against Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. We're in the same situation. We're down 10 with 4.5 minutes to go. And we just had some great players step up and hit some big-time shots and big moments. And once we won that game to get to the Final Four, it really becomes anybody's ball game once, you make it there. And we had 4, I think, the 4 best teams in America made the Final Four this year. It was, obviously us, Houston, Auburn, and Duke. And anybody in that foursome could have won it, depending on how the games go. And, we were down 8 at halftime against Auburn in the semis and rallied. And, you just, at that point, you just never want your season to end. You want to find a way to stay alive and get to the next one. And played a pretty good game in the championship, found a way to get it done.
I'm not the most educated college basketball fan on the face of the planet, but I loved your game against UConn. And I was sitting and watching it with my son-in-law, and I was like, your team is significantly more talented than that UConn team, but Danny is so good at getting the most out of his players that did you feel like that test was something, despite the fact you guys had a great season, but was something that definitely benefited you as the tournament went on?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought we played our best basketball of the year in the SEC tournament. We rolled through the SEC tournament, and it was the best league in America, best league in across college basketball for a while. UConn, a couple things about them. They were very talented. They were banged up a lot of the year. They got healthy down the stretch, and they were a very difficult opponent in that second round. The other advantage they had over us is they had been there before.
Right.
Not just the coaching issue. I had never won a tournament game before this year. Danny obviously had won back-to-backs, but their players like Alex Caravan, Hassan Diarra, they had guys on their roster that had been used to winning in those moments, and we didn't. And so that was a big step for us. I felt like that got a little bit of the monkey off our back, winning that game, getting to the Sweet 16. We could play a little more free down the stretch.
Well, we were talking about players and coming in the draft, and we have obviously an interest in the Bulls. Where are you hearing, or if you're hearing anything about Clayton Jr.? on where he could go. We loved him. I mean,
Yeah.
and then I want to ask you a story about him too. But what are you hearing as far as his prospects?
I as of like last week, and I think Combine will determine a little more. But we were thinking somewhere between 10 and 20 would be where he could land. He's a guy that probably has a wider range. He's a little older, and I think people hold that against you sometimes. But he was clearly the best player in the NCAA tournament. Like it wasn't close, and he kind of put us on his back for a while. And his ability to win at the highest level, I think, matters more to some teams. So I think there might be some teams that are willing to take him a little higher than some people think. But he could also drop a little bit because he's a little older. So if I were an NBA franchise, I would take him really early. The guy can shoot it and score it with anybody in America, has great winning DNA, is a great athlete, great leader, great young man, and I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level. Is
it just a matter of the next group finding or making whatever priority is, whether it be experience versus youth? Because that kid has seen it all, done it all, and lived through the biggest moments.
Yeah, I think different franchises are at different points in their respective, whether it's rebuilds or just where their organization is at the time, and maybe they feel like they want to take a chance on a younger guy that might not be as solid but has a little higher ceiling, whatever. But again, like Walter is a guy that I think at this point has been analyzed a little too. It's not that complicated. Right. The guy's a great player. He's going to make somebody really, really good.
Who is the best player you've ever seen in college?
Like competed against or just seen?
Yeah, or that you've seen. Yeah, like even if it goes back to you being a fan, like your memory, coach, fan, who's the best college player that you've ever seen play?
I mean, Kevin Durant's year at Texas, I'd have to put that right up there, at the top of the list. I'm trying to think of some of these other guys. Zion at Duke had a great year. I'd put him, up there. After those guys, I'm probably a couple slipping, but I'd say Durant in Texas would probably be one that would be hard to beat.
And the story about Clayton, I'm sure like from what I read, our guy Jervon Dexter, who played football at Florida, is the reason why Clayton committed to playing basketball full time. Is that true or false?
Yeah, well, I just know they're from the same town, and they were very, very close growing up and in high school. And there's a great picture, and I'm sure you guys could find it somewhere on social media of Walter and Jervon on their visits. They went unofficially visited, Florida as sophomores or whatever it was, and Walter's in a football jersey. It's a great picture, great photo shoot. Walter was 4-star for sure, safety prospect in football, had offers all over the map, and he's just a hoop head, man. So he was a 0-ranked basketball recruit that went to Iona, and the rest is history for him.
That's awesome.
Before we let you go, how different is college basketball today for you as a head coach with the ever-changing landscape of NIL, the portal constantly? I say, Todd, that it is the most rights an athlete gets as a free agent. Like some of the kids have greater free agency rights in college than they do in the NBA.
It's not close.
Right. So what is that like for you during these times with the portal?
It's challenging, and it's back, 20, I guess we'd say 20 years or so ago when I was playing in college, the pendulum was definitely far too swung to the school and coach's side in terms of flexibility and, what the power, for lack of a better term, that was had by the schools and the coaches as opposed to the players. Well, the pendulum has swung completely to the other side now, and the balance needs to be somewhere in the middle. We're not there right now, but we're in this world of, every year free agency. We're in this world of no salary cap with NIL. Like we're attempting to find solutions. We'll see how the House settlement lands and what exactly they are able, to actually decide based off that. But it's, and the most difficult part is that the student athletes and the agents that they work with now completely understand the leverage that they have. Oh, yeah. The game has changed dramatically because of that. And that's something that we're always trying to navigate. And it's making it very difficult, at times to put teams together.
Are there any specific guardrails that you would be vocally a fan of? Or would you be someone that would support, say, you have to sign a 2-year contract, any kid that signs with a school, and he can't just move and be a free agent year to year to year?
Yeah, there's a ton. I mean, Fran Fraschilla tweeted one the other day that I think it's a great starting point, and it starts with the transfer legislation, and what he argued was if we could agree to, these student athletes have a one-time transfer exception, meaning every student athlete that comes to college can transfer one time, okay? We can agree on that. And then if they graduate, so let's put a little bit of an academic incentive in there. If you graduate and you have a year of eligibility left, then if, it's a better situation for you to go elsewhere and play, great. I think everybody can get behind that, because if somebody's staying in school long enough to graduate and have eligibility left, they're probably not a pro. So it might make sense for them to go play somewhere else. And then I like the, student athletes having the flexibility to leave if their coach leaves. That covers a lot of ground, where if a coach leaves to take a job, then those student athletes in that program have 30 days to decide, do they want to stay and work with the next coach, or do they want to go in the portal. If we had just those three, kind of buckets, I think it would be a lot more simple in terms of navigating college right now.